Am I the asshole? Best friend accused my husband. I, 37 female, had a best friend, 37 female. We both have sons, mine is 1 year older than hers, 8 and 7 y. Her son has severe behavioral issues and has been diagnosed with ASD among other things. Every time the boys got together her son would go after mine. We rarely got them together as this was both stressful and upsetting. I never really said anything to my friend like, "That's not okay," because I assumed we were on the same page. At her son's 7th birthday my whole family was at her home, along with a handful of other guests. We were all hanging out when suddenly my son is crying and her son is nowhere to be found. My husband took our son into the bathroom, and said that my friend's son came after him again. That was the last straw for my husband. He walked past this kid's room and told him, "It is not okay to do this to people. This is not okay," and announced that it was, indeed, the birthday boy and that he was taking our son home. I was surprised but started to gather my things. As I'm leaving my friend says, "I just don't know what to do about this situation with your husband," which did not make any sense to me. She then proceeds to bombard me with texts about how I should apologize, how she's sad for me because my husband is abusive and so on. She also accused him of not understanding her son's diagnosis. My husband is a social worker and has been for 2 decades. He works in the field with people with all kinds of disabilities. He is excellent at what he does and knows how to communicate with folks that don't receive information the same as a neurotypical person. Then come the texts about how yelling is not okay in her house, that no one is taking her son's feelings into account. She offered for me to take space. I took 2.5 weeks and wasn't sure how to reach out to resolve it. She messaged me and, even though she offered space, stated that I shouldn't have been silent for so long because I know her trauma history and it was very upsetting for her. She later admitted that my husband wasn't yelling, but his tone was firm and that was triggering for her. I take full responsibility for the fact that she did not understand that I am, in no way, okay with my son being attacked by her son. I would typically just remove myself and my son and let her handle hers. I still refuse to apologize. His son was the aggressor but she somehow turned it into me having an abusive husband. She basically sent a goodbye message, and I asked her if this was the end of our friendship. She said that she would not be able to talk to my husband so it's not fair to continue to be friends. I'm absolutely devastated. I had invested a lot of emotional work into this friendship, and so had she. She also has a tendency to cut people out of her life, so I guess I should have been a little more guarded. Am I the asshole? This happened in May. She told me that she had been working with her son and that he was doing much better. I absolutely should not have taken her word for it. I regret that. I haven't spoken to her since this happened. I have stood up for my husband's actions 100% and I know that I shouldn't have even had my son at that birthday party. Why didn't you stick up for your son and husband? You let this woman bully you and shit on your family. You get points that tip you into not the asshole for not apologizing. But still you need to step up. Not the asshole. Your friend is doing her son zero favors here. She needs to be working with her son, within his ability to process, on what is and is not acceptable behavior. It sounds like instead she just dismisses it. Info. Go after your son how? Not the asshole, though I'm not sure for what you'd be the Your friend twists around a situation with your husband and then accuses him of being abusive? Then she gives you space, but later is upset because you should have known how upsetting that would be for her. I'm sure your SW hubby has pointed out how unhealthy this behavior is, especially adding in the bit about her suddenly cutting people out of her life. Your friend needs some deep processing with a therapist, both for her own trauma and with the difficulties of parenting her son. I'm sorry your friendship had to end on these terms. Wow, dealing with a similar situation except we have daughters. Her daughter was constantly attacking my daughter and has obvious autism. She hid the diagnosis from me and I respected that boundary immensely. But it stopped me from being able to communicate with her daughter effectively when she would lash out at my daughter. My daughter would get so scared and shocked and my best friend treated it like they had an argument and gloss it over. Like both sides wrong kind of thing. It was shocking and I confronted her once beforehand. She did the same thing your friend did. She acted like the victim, etc. I think it has something to do with them not completely understanding the boundaries they need to set for their own kids even with their diagnosis. Am I the asshole for uninviting half my family from my wedding? Bit of a long story so bear with me. I, 32 female. I'm marrying my long-term boyfriend, 34 male, in February next year. We've been engaged and planning the wedding for about 2 years now. Part of the reason we've had such a long engagement is that he's Irish Catholic and I'm English Protestant, Anglican. He's not remotely religious, I am though, but his family are very devout. His grandma, who he is extremely close to, in particular really wanted him to get married in their local church. Anyway, we went to speak to the priest about it and he told us it's possible for us to marry without me converting. You just need to ask the bishop for permission. However, at the same time he asked if I'd be interested in converting. My family history is that my dad's family is Catholic, from Liverpool, but my mum's family is Anglican. Anyway, long story short, I thought about it and decided to do the conversion course and convert. It started a year and a half ago and I finished it this April. A few months ago I was at home for a big family barbecue and a cousin on my dad's side, who was never christened or baptized, was telling me she was thinking about starting to go to church etc. I started telling her about this course I'd done, which is also for people new to the church, and my experience of it etc. I have 2 aunts on my mum's side, and one of them, who was hammered at this point, overheard and said, "You're a Catholic now. Isn't it bad enough you're marrying one?" I was totally speechless for a second, and my dad's very much a conflict resolution sort of person so he tried to make a joke out of things by saying, like mother like daughter, but I'm not a conflict resolution sort of person so I asked her what the hell she meant by that. She started ranting about the 70s and my mum had to almost physically pull her inside. It's worth noting that her husband, her other sister, her husband and their kids were all there, all adults, but not one of them said anything to shut her up. In fact, they were actively excusing her by saying things like, "She's just had too much to drink." And my other aunt even asked me again why I'd converted in quite a harsh voice. I didn't answer but I did say that if they felt so strongly about it then they can just not come to the wedding. My dad managed to change the conversation at that point. Again with a joke, bless him, and the subject didn't come up again. The day after I was talking to my mum about it, who was also trying to keep the peace by saying that it's just a touchy subject for them. It fucking isn't, they're just dicks. I told her I didn't care if it was touchy, they couldn't say that sort of thing and I was uninviting that side of the family from the wedding. I think they thought I was joking but the invites went out last week and they're furious that I've cut them out of the wedding over a bit of banter. Am I the asshole? It was maybe a bit severe not to invite any of them, but not one of them stood up to my aunt and disagreed. Not the asshole. If religious values are important to you, and some members of your family have trampled on them, it's okay to disinvite them. Just be prepared for some major fallout. Not the asshole. You don't need people at your wedding who disparage your future spouse to your face. I'm disappointed, though, in anyone who converts to a religion just to marry. It doesn't say much for their own convictions if they can convert so easily. Not the asshole. Just tell them you're touchy about having people at your wedding who are assholes. Not the asshole. I view myself as a refugee from Christianity, a Irish Protestant. But having watched the horrors of the Troubles, I firmly believe that any sort of comments like your aunts made are hugely out of bounds and cannot be tolerated. Your response was proportional and they refused to back down and later tried to rug sweep their bad behavior. Furthermore, having bigoted drunks of any stripe at a wedding is asking for disaster. Stick to your guns and have a great wedding. Not the asshole. If they're carrying on like that at a barbecue, who knows what they'd be doing at the actual wedding? Am I the asshole for refusing to let a guest use my room and kicking them out of my fiancé's house? Throwaway because I post filth on my main. I don't know how to format this but I'm 32. My fiancé Jay is 41 and his friend Matt is about the same age. I know my fiancé has definitely given me spoiled princess treatment and I don't know if that's coloring the way I see this or if I'm right. When Jay bought his house it was a 3BD, 3 ba, but he wanted a fireplace in his bedroom so he converted the den and now it's 4 bedrooms. But it doesn't have a closet and the nearest bathroom is the smallest. He used the master bedroom for guests. I've been slowly moving in over the last few months and I brought up needing more space and he gifted me the master bedroom as my personal space. I have plenty of room in the bathroom and closet and I can use the room for my altar and my cat stuff. Plus I'm chronically ill and sometimes it's better to sleep alone. He turned his office into the new guest room, which is a much smaller space. I don't actually live there yet though and won't for maybe 6 months. His friend Matt lives out of state but took a project in our city and was going to stay here with Jay for 12 weeks. The last time Matt visited, he was in the master bedroom and I guess he under the impression that he would using that room again. He seemed surprised when he got here but he didn't say anything right away. It started after a couple days though, it's such a small room for an extended stay, etc. Little comments but it's been about 2 weeks and yesterday, I was over putting my summer stuff away in the closet and he came in to ask if I'd be okay with him moving to that room because he felt cramped in the other and I declined. I already have stuff in there that I do not want anyone touching and I would be uncomfortable with him in there. He got upset and called me selfish and a pampered little princess, and that he thought it was so weird that I was being like this when I don't even live here. I said it didn't matter, it's still my room and it'll be my house too soon enough, so who cares about technicalities. We argued and it escalated and it ended with me telling him to GTFO if he couldn't respect me. I think he thought Jay wouldn't let me do that but he took my side and asked Matt to find an Airbnb for the rest of his stay. I ended up going home for the night but I know Jay and Matt stayed up arguing about it for most of the night and their friendship is done. I was telling my sister about it this morning and I was surprised when she wasn't on my side. She said she couldn't understand why I'd tank my fiancé's friendship when I could just let him use the room since I'm not even moved in yet. She accused me of taking advantage of my fiancé and being selfish. And she's right, Jay will take my side even when I know I'm wrong, so him agreeing with me isn't a good litmus test. But I don't think I'm wrong, it's my room and I didn't want him in there. It's not like he had to sleep on the couch, it was just a small room. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your fiancé, who actually owns the house, gave you the room. That's it. His friend wasn't happy that he didn't get the master bedroom. Assuming he also isn't paying anything for his lengthy stay, assumed that he could order you around in your fiancé's house. He learned, though, you didn't end this friendship. Matt did with his nasty comments that Jay wasn't cool with. BTW, it's very telling that Matt came to you about the room, and when you didn't agree with letting him stay in it, he started his insults. I bet this wasn't the first time he expressed these feelings about you. He's most likely said it all to Jay already, this was just the final straw. Matt needs to get over himself. He's staying with a friend. He's a guest. And complaining that he doesn't get the master bedroom. Not the asshole. He was off the spare room, it sounds fully functional. He is behaving like an asshole because you won't give your room up for him. Your boyfriend is right to back you up. Beggars can't be choosers. Matt was staying free at Jay's house and had to deal with the accommodations available. If this is enough to split up their friendship, well, maybe it wasn't much a friendship. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. He was a guest in the house, he should be happy to have his own room and not just have to sleep on a couch or pay for his stay. It doesn't matter if the master bedroom is used by you. If it was a storage room or the room he keeps all his reptiles, it was Jay's decision to let Matt stay in one of his rooms. And Matt could have left at any point if it was too small for him. But expecting that he get better treatment at a place where he stays for free sounds also spoiled. Well, it cost nothing to ask, but he should have accepted a no. But maybe talk to Jay, if he is sad about ending the friendship, and if so, if there is anything that can be done to save it. So you show him that you are also at his side. Am I the asshole for moving out and taking my dog with me? I, F18. Just moved out of my mother's, F39, house a few weeks ago and took my dog with me. When I was 15, my mother had gotten me a dog I had been begging for since I was 10. She had told me before she got the dog that the dog would be my responsibility. Of course I said yes, not knowing the full extent of what that meant. So when she surprised me with a dog after a long day of school, I was ecstatic. But when I looked around the house, I couldn't find any food or bedding. When I asked my mother where the food or bed was, she replied with, "The dog is your responsibility, which means you have to buy him the things he needs." I didn't have a job at the time and had practically no money. I could only buy him dog food and a couple blankets from a thrift store to make up for a bed. A few weeks after getting the dog, I had got a job where I made minimum wage. I was barely making $150 a week, with my mother constantly calling and telling me, needs to go outside. Needs to go for a walk, or, just had an accident, you need to come clean it. Which forced me to leave work early most days. I spent all my earnings on buying things for the dog. Food, toys, beds, vet bills, medication, etc. Sometimes I even had to go to a local pantry to find dog food when I couldn't afford it because my mother refused to give me money for the dog. When I turned 16, I got a good-paying job at a local restaurant and started saving up to move out. With saying that, it takes us to now. A few weeks ago I moved into my first apartment and took my dog with me. I moved out in the middle of the night with a backpack full of my belongings and a few bags full of my dog's things. The morning after I received a phone call from my mother that went like this: "Bring the dog back or I'm calling the police." I hung up on her and wasn't surprised when I got a call from the local sheriff asking me to meet him at the station. He asked me if what my mother was saying was true. I asked him what she was saying and found out she called the cops saying I broke into her house while she was at the store and stole her dog. I told the sheriff it wasn't true and explained what happened. I showed him receipts and card records of purchases that I made for the dog and showed him voicemails of my mother yelling at me to get home and take care of my dog. He told me I had every right to keep the dog since I had proof of rightful ownership of my dog. When I got home I sent a text that read, "First things first, I will be keeping ___ in my house and under my care. And secondly, why is ___ all of a sudden your dog? He wasn't your dog when I had to buy him things on my own. He wasn't your dog when you would call me home from work to take care of him because he was my responsibility. And he certainly wasn't your dog when you would call the cops and say I was starving my dog when I would ask you for money to buy him food." And with that I blocked her number. Not the asshole, but your mom sure is. A heinous one. It sounds like she only got you the dog so she could have a way to stress you out and guilt trip you continually. I hope that you and the dog will be much happier now that you don't have to deal with her anymore. Make sure you get your dog chipped. Not the asshole. Also, applause. Not the asshole. Ever. And in my eyes, wow, you are incredible. Fabulous achievements to make at such a young age. You should be so proud of yourself, the rest of us are. Best doggo friend ever. Not the asshole, and you should feel proud that you've gotten out of this abusive relationship. _ is a very lucky dog.